The Star Weaver drifted helplessly through space, its once mighty engines now silent. Inside the ship's control room, Captain Ricks stared at the blinking red warnings that covered every screen. His gray skin had turned an even paler shade as he realized the severity of their situation. They were stuck in an unknown part of space, with failing life support systems and no way to restart their quantum drive. "How much longer do we have?" he asked his chief engineer. Engineer First Class Mech touched several floating screens, his four eyes narrowing as he calculated. "Without main power, we have maybe 3 days of emergency systems left. After that," he left the sentence unfinished. They all knew what would happen after that. The Star Weaver was one of the finest ships ever built by the Galactic Alliance. Its engines were self-repairing, its systems were automatic, and its technology was centuries ahead of most spacefaring races. But now, all that advanced technology was nothing more than expensive decoration. "There is a repair station nearby," Officer Lim said quietly, her antenna twitching nervously. But what?" Captain Ricks demanded. "It's human." The control room fell silent. Everyone had heard of humans. They were one of the newest species to join the galactic community, barely 200 years into space travel. They still used physical tools instead of matter manipulators. They fixed things by hand instead of using automated systems. To most of the galaxy, they were considered primitive. But they were also the only help within range. "Send the distress signal," Captain Ricks ordered, his pride giving way to survival instinct. "Let's see what these humans can do." The Mars Orbital Repair Station wasn't much to look at. Unlike the sleek, crystalline structures of most space stations, it was a collection of connected modules, storage containers, and docking arms that looked more like a giant metal spider than a proper station. But to Tom Walker, it was home. Tom was checking the seals on a maintenance airlock when the call came in. "Hey boss," his assistant Jeff called over the radio. "You're gonna want to see this. We've got a Class 9 vessel requesting emergency docking." Tom whistled. Class 9 meant seriously advanced alien tech. "What's wrong with it?" "Complete power failure. They're running on emergency systems only." "Get Bay 3 ready. I'll be there in 5. When the Star Weaver was finally towed into the repair bay, Tom couldn't help but admire it. The ship was beautiful, all smooth lines and shimmering metal. But beauty wouldn't keep a crew alive in space. The alien captain emerged from the ship, followed by his engineering team. They looked down at Tom, literally, since they were all nearly 7 feet tall, with poorly hidden disdain. "I am Captain Ricks of the Star Weaver," the alien said formally. "We require assistance with our quantum drive system." Tom nodded, already scanning the ship with his handheld detector. "I'm Tom Walker, head mechanic. Tell me what happened before the failure." The alien engineers exchanged looks before their leader, Mech, spoke up. "There was a power surge in the quantum matrix. The automated systems tried to compensate, but the feedback loop grew too strong. Everything shut down to prevent a cascade failure. And your self-repair systems failed to activate. We've tried every standard procedure in the manual." Tom walked around the ship, occasionally tapping on panels with his knuckles. The aliens watched in horror at this seemingly primitive approach. "Well," he said finally, "I think I know what's wrong. Your quantum matrix isn't actually the problem. It's your power distribution system. See these panels here?" He knocked on one section of the hull. "They're vibrating at the wrong frequency. You've got a physical misalignment in your power conduits." The aliens stared at him in disbelief. "That's impossible," Mech protested. "The system is perfect. Each component is quantum locked into position." Tom smiled. "Nothing's perfect in space. Heat, stress, micro-impacts, they all take their toll. Sometimes the old ways of fixing things still work best." "Jeff," he called to his assistant, "bring me the sonic spanner and the Mark IV phase aligner. We're going to have to do this the human way." As Tom began opening panels and checking connections by hand, He could feel the alien's anxiety growing. But he knew what he was doing. Sometimes the most advanced problems needed the simplest solutions. And if there was one thing humans were good at, it was fixing things that were supposed to be unfixable. The real work was about to begin, and Tom Walker was ready to show these aliens exactly why human repair stations were about to become the most important places in the galaxy. Captain Ricks watched in horror as Tom Walker pulled out a toolbox filled with what looked like primitive metal instruments. The human was actually going to touch the quantum drive components with his hands. It was unthinkable. "This is madness," Engineer Mech protested. "Those components are sensitive to quantum fluctuations. They can only be adjusted by automated systems." Tom didn't even look up as he laid out his tools. "That's your first problem right there," he said, selecting a wrench. "You folks rely too much on automation. Sometimes you need to feel the machine to know what's wrong with it." Jeff, Tom's assistant, wheeled over a cart with more equipment. Among the tools was something that made the aliens step back in shock: an old car battery. "What is that primitive power cell?" Lim asked, her antenna twitching rapidly. "This." Tom patted the battery. "This is how we're going to restart your ship's power grid. Sometimes you need to kickstart a quantum system the old-fashioned way." The aliens watched nervously as Tom and Jeff began their work. First, they removed several panels from the ship's hull, exposing the glowing power conduits beneath. The aliens gasped. Touching exposed quantum circuits was supposed to be fatal. But Tom worked carefully, using rubber-handled tools and what looked like modified kitchen gloves. He traced the power lines with a device that seemed to be partly made from an old smartphone. "See this?" Tom pointed to a barely visible distortion in one of the crystal-like power tubes. "Microfracture. Your automated systems can't detect it because they're too precise. They're looking for major breaks, not hairline cracks." Mech leaned in despite himself, his four eyes widening. "But how can you fix a quantum crystal? It would take a molecular reconstructor." Tom grinned and pulled out what looked like a tube of clear gel. "This is something we cooked up in the station's lab. Mix of old Earth epoxy and some of that fancy alien crystal growth compound you folks use. Works better than either one alone." The repair team worked for hours. Tom's methods seemed to break every rule in the manual. He used the car battery to create a controlled power surge, forcing the damaged systems to reveal themselves. He patched quantum crystals with his hybrid gel. At one point, he even used a modified microwave emitter to realign the power distribution nodes. "This is impossible," Mech kept saying. "These methods violate at least 15 different safety protocols." "Sometimes the protocols are the problem," Jeff explained as he helped Tom reset a power coupling. "They're designed for perfect conditions. Space isn't perfect. You need solutions that can handle the mess." The turning point came when Tom identified the root cause of the failure. Deep within the ship's power core, a tiny piece of space debris had caused a microscopic crack in the main power crystal. The automated systems hadn't detected it because they were programmed to look for damage 1,000 times larger. "Your systems are too perfect," Tom explained as he prepared to fix the crack. "They expect everything to be either working perfectly or broken completely. But most problems in space are somewhere in between." Using a combination of their hybrid gel, controlled energy pulses from the car battery, and what looked suspiciously like a modified soldering iron, Tom and his team repaired the crystal. The aliens watched in amazement as the power readings began to stabilize. "Now for the moment of truth," Tom said, standing back from the repaired systems. "Jeff, start the power-up sequence." The Star Weaver's engines hummed to life. One by one, the ship's systems came online. Power flowed smoothly through the repaired conduits. The quantum drive core pulsed with stable energy. Captain Ricks stared at the readings in disbelief. "It's working better than before. How is this possible?" Tom wiped his hands on a rag and smiled. "Sometimes the best solutions are the simple ones. Your automated systems were trying to maintain perfect quantum alignment. But space isn't perfect. Our repairs allow for tiny imperfections while keeping the system stable. It's not as efficient on paper, but it's more reliable in real conditions. The aliens looked at their ship, then at the scattered collection of primitive tools that had saved it. Perhaps they realized there was more to human engineering than they had thought. "We need to document these repair methods," Mech said suddenly. "The Galactic Alliance should know about this." Tom and Jeff exchanged knowing looks. This was just the beginning. 3 months after fixing the Star Weaver, Tom Walker couldn't believe how much had changed at the Mars Orbital Repair Station. The once quiet repair bay now housed ships from across the galaxy. Word had spread fast through the alien communication networks about the humans who could fix the unfixable. "Bay 4 needs you, boss," Jeff called over the radio. "Got a Stellar-class cargo ship with crystal engine trouble. Sounds similar to the Star Weaver case." Tom looked up from the engine he was working on. "That's the third one this week. Get Bill and Mary on it. They handled the last crystal engine repair perfectly." The repair station had grown. They'd added 2 new docking bays and hired 15 more mechanics. Each of them brought their own unique way of solving problems, which was exactly what Tom wanted. Humans were good at fixing things precisely because they all thought differently. In Bay 2, Mary was teaching an alien engineer how to use a modified ultrasound scanner to detect microcracks in quantum fuel lines. "See," she explained, pointing to the screen, "we took an old medical device and rewired it. Works better than your quantum scanners for finding small problems." The alien watched in fascination as she demonstrated the technique. "But this is primitive technology." Mary smiled. "Sometimes primitive is better. Your scanners look for big problems. Ours can find the tiny ones before they become big." Meanwhile, the Earth-Mars Trade Commission had taken notice. Representatives arrived at the station one morning, accompanied by aliens from the Galactic Alliance. "Mr. Walker," the Trade Commission representative said, "we've received numerous reports about your repair methods. The Alliance is interested in establishing this as an official interstellar repair hub." Tom scratched his head. "We're not exactly fancy here, sir. We just fix things." "That's exactly why we're here," the alien representative said. "Your just fixing things has solved problems that our best engineers couldn't handle. We want to make this official and expand it." The meeting led to big changes. The commission provided funding for more bays, better equipment, and most importantly, a training program. Aliens from across the galaxy began sending their engineers to learn the human way of fixing things. In Bay 6, Bill was demonstrating to a group of alien students how to improvise repairs. "Sometimes you don't have the right part," he explained, holding up a damaged power converter. "But you can usually find a way to make something work." The aliens watched as he combined parts from 3 different species technologies to create a working replacement. It wasn't pretty, but it worked better than the original. "But this violates standard protocols," one student protested. "Space doesn't care about protocols," Bill replied. "Out here, the only protocol that matters is keeping ships flying and crews alive." The station's reputation grew with each successful repair. Ships that had been declared unsalvageable by alien mechanics were brought back to life by human ingenuity. The humans' willingness to try new things, to combine technologies in unexpected ways, and to ignore impossible quickly became legendary. One day, Tom received a message from Captain Ricks of the Star Weaver. The ship had gone through 3 major battles, 2 ion storms, and a close encounter with a black hole, and the repairs were still holding. "Your primitive methods," Ricks wrote, "have proven more durable than our original systems. The Alliance is considering making your repair protocols the new standard for all ships." Tom shared the message with his team during their daily meeting. "Hear that? We're becoming the standard. Not bad for a bunch of primitive humans with hand tools." The mechanics laughed, but they all felt proud. They were changing how the galaxy thought about technology and repair work. "Got another impossible case coming in," Jeff announced, checking the incoming ship logs. "Engines completely dead, Life support failing. Crew says no one else will even try to fix it. Tom grinned. Sounds like a normal Tuesday. Let's show them what primitive humans can do. As he headed to the repair bay, Tom realized that humanity had found its place in the galaxy. They weren't the most advanced, the strongest, or the fastest. But when things broke down, and things always broke down in space, humans were the ones everyone trusted to put them back together. The warning came at midnight station time. Tom Walker was finishing up routine maintenance when all emergency channels lit up at once. "This is Fleet Captain Dex of the Combined Refugee Fleet," a tired voice announced over the comms. "We have 3,000 ships approaching the Sol system. Many are damaged. We request emergency assistance." Tom rushed to the control room, where Jeff was already pulling up the sensor data. The sight made his heart skip a beat. The space around Pluto's orbit was filled with ships of all sizes and designs. Many were trailing debris. Some were being towed. A few were running on emergency power only. "What happened out there?" Tom asked as the first detailed scans came in. Their home systems were hit by a chain of stellar explosions, Jeff read from the incoming reports. "They've been running for weeks. Different species, different tech. This is going to be a nightmare to coordinate." Tom grabbed the comm system. "All repair teams, emergency stations. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill." Within hours, the first wave of refugee ships reached Mars orbit. The sight was even worse up close. Ships designed for short cargo runs were packed with families. Military vessels towed civilian craft that had lost power. The mix of technologies was unlike anything the repair teams had ever seen. "We've got 30 different drive systems," Mary reported from Bay 3. "Some of them were never meant to work together. They've jury-rigged connections between incompatible tech just to keep moving. Power systems are critical on 60% of the fleet," Bill added from his station. "They've been running hot for too long. We've got cascade failures starting in the outer rings." Tom looked at the massive fleet stretching out into space. The repair station, even with its recent expansions, wasn't built for this. But these people needed help, and humans were good at making impossible things work. "Jeff, contact Earth and the Martian colonies. We need every mechanic, engineer, and technician they can spare." "Mary, start categorizing ships by repair priority. Life support problems first, then power systems." Bill, begin converting the cargo bays into temporary repair stations. The next 48 hours were chaos. Ships arrived faster than they could be processed. The station's docking bays were full, with more ships waiting in holding patterns that stretched halfway to Earth. Every mechanic worked double shifts, catching sleep when they could. Tom found himself facing problems he'd never imagined. A ship from the outer rim was running its life support through an engine designed by a completely different species. Another had cobbled together a power core from 3 different technologies. None of them meant to work together. "It's impossible," one alien engineer said, looking at a particularly complicated case. "These systems cannot work together. The physical laws." "Physical laws are one thing," Tom interrupted, already pulling tools from his kit. "Keeping people alive is another. We'll make it work." The human approach to repairs proved vital during the crisis. Where alien engineers saw incompatible systems, humans saw opportunities. They didn't try to make things perfect. They made them work. In Bay 7, a team of human mechanics used parts from a broken food processor to repair a quantum stabilizer. In Bay 12, they adapted Earth mining equipment to reinforce failing hull plates. Every success taught them something new about combining different alien technologies. "We're learning more about alien tech in days than we did in months," Jeff commented as they finished another impossible repair. "These refugees, they've already done half our work for us, proving different systems can work together." Tom nodded, watching as another repaired ship moved out to make room for the next one. The refugees had been forced to ignore the rules about compatible technology, forced to make things work that never should have worked together. In doing so, they'd shown that the human approach, flexible, adaptable, sometimes messy, was exactly what the galaxy needed. "Get me the Earth-Mars Commission," Tom said suddenly. "I've got an idea about how to handle this better. We're going to need a lot more space, and a lot more tools, and we're going to teach these refugees how to fix their own ships our way." The crisis was far from over, but it was becoming clear that the human repair stations were about to become even more important to the galaxy than anyone had imagined. A week into the refugee crisis, Tom Walker stood in what used to be the station's main cargo hold. Now it was the heart of something new, the first Universal Repair Academy. Around him, humans and aliens worked side by side, learning from each other's methods and mistakes. "The trick isn't to make it perfect," Mary was telling a group of refugee engineers. "The trick is to make it work reliably." She held up what looked like a mess of wires and crystal shards. "This adapter lets you connect any power system to any other power system. It's not pretty, but it works." The alien engineers watched in fascination as she demonstrated. One of them, a tall being named Rex, raised his hand. "But the efficiency loss must be enormous." 15%, Mary agreed. "But what's better, running at 85% power or not running at all?" Tom smiled as he walked past. This was exactly what he'd hoped for when he proposed the Academy to the Earth-Mars Commission. The refugees weren't just victims needing help. They were a vast pool of engineering knowledge. They just needed to learn how to think like humans about repairs. In another corner, Bill was teaching a different kind of lesson. "These universal tools we've developed," he explained, holding up what looked like a hybrid between a wrench and a quantum scanner, "can adapt to any technology. Watch." He pressed a button, and the tool's head morphed, its molecular structure shifting to match the alien technology he was working on. The refugees gasped. One of them stepped forward. "This is impossible," she said. "You've combined 5 different species tool-making methods." Bill grinned. "Nothing's impossible. We just took the best parts of everyone's technology and made them work together. Like this whole station, it's not about whose tech is better. It's about using what works." The station had been transformed. Every available space was now either a repair bay or a teaching area. The humans had developed a new system of color-coded markings that any species could understand, showing which areas were safe for which types of repairs. Tom's biggest innovation was the new repair database. "Every time we fix something," he explained to a group of officials, "we add it to the system. Any similar problem that comes up, the database suggests solutions that have worked before. It learns from every repair we do." Jeff, who had helped design the system, pulled up a holographic display. "See these patterns? We're finding that a lot of incompatible technologies actually work together better than their original designers thought. The refugees' makeshift repairs proved it was possible. We're just making it reliable." The refugees themselves were proving to be excellent students. Their desperate journey had already taught them to think creatively about repairs. Now, with human guidance, they were becoming exceptional problem solvers. Yesterday, Tom told his team during their daily meeting, "I saw a refugee engineer combine 3 different species repair methods to fix a problem we'd never seen before. She didn't just follow our example, she improved on it." The station was becoming more than just a repair facility. It was turning into a melting pot of technological knowledge, where the desperate measures of survival were being refined into reliable engineering practices. One afternoon, Tom found Mary staring out a viewport at the fleet of refugee ships. Thanks to their new methods, they were repairing vessels faster than ever, but there were still so many waiting. "Thinking deep thoughts?" he asked. She nodded. "We're not just fixing ships anymore, are we? We're changing how the whole galaxy thinks about technology." Tom looked at the newly organized repair base, where beings from a dozen worlds worked together, sharing tools and techniques that would have been considered impossible to combine just weeks ago. "That's the real human contribution," he said. "Not just fixing things, but teaching everyone that different doesn't mean incompatible. In space, everything can work together if you're creative enough." As if to prove his point, an alert came in from Bay 12. A refugee ship had just arrived with a completely new type of engine problem. Tom smiled. Time for another impossible repair to become possible. "Let's go show them how humans do it," he said. "And then let's teach them to do it better than we can." 1 year after the refugee crisis, the Mars Orbital Repair Station had changed beyond recognition. What was once a simple repair dock had grown into a sprawling complex that even the Galactic Alliance's finest architects admired. But Tom Walker's favorite part wasn't the shiny new facilities. It was the sight of his repair methods being used across the galaxy. "Look at this," Jeff said, pulling up a holographic display in the station's new control center. "We've got confirmation of the 100th human-style repair station opening in the Centauri sector." Tom watched as the map showed the spread of repair stations across known space. Each glowing dot represented a facility using human repair methods, staffed by graduates of their training program. The sight still amazed him. "Not bad for a bunch of primitive humans with hand tools," he said with a smile. The Earth-Mars Trade Commission had turned their emergency response into something bigger. The Universal Repair Academy was now the most prestigious engineering school in known space. Species that once looked down on human technology now sent their brightest minds to learn the human way of fixing things. In Training Bay 4, Mary was giving a lecture to a group of alien engineers from 30 different worlds. "The old way was to make everything perfect," she explained. "The human way is to make everything adaptable. Perfect breaks, adaptable bends." She demonstrated by intentionally overloading a power coupling. The alien students gasped as the system automatically reconfigured itself, routing power through backup channels they had built using mixed technology. "See," Mary pointed to the readings. 80% efficiency instead of 100%, but it keeps running no matter what. That's the human standard. The term human standard had spread across the galaxy. It meant something that wasn't necessarily the most advanced or efficient solution, but was reliable, repairable, and adaptable to almost any situation. In the main repair bay, Bill was overseeing the installation of a new type of diagnostic system. It combined human intuition with alien scanning technology, creating something better than either could achieve alone. "The scanner picks up the problems," he told the visiting Alliance official, "but the system asks the mechanic what they think before making a decision. We learned that computers can spot issues, but humans are better at figuring out creative solutions." The official nodded, taking notes. "Your methods have reduced critical failures across the Alliance fleet by 60%. The Council wants to make them mandatory for all new ships." That was the biggest change of all. New ships were being built with human repair principles in mind. Maintenance panels were designed for easy access. Systems were made modular and adaptable. Engineers even started building in what they called repair paths, ways to bypass damaged systems that even primitive tools could work with. Tom received a call from an old friend, Captain Ricks of the Star Weaver. "Our shipyards are being rebuilt," the alien captain said. "We want to make them human standard compliant. Would you send some of your engineers to help?" "Better idea," Tom replied. "We'll teach your people how to do it themselves. That's the real human standard, not just fixing things, but teaching others to fix them too." The station had become more than just a repair facility. It was a symbol of how humanity had changed the galaxy's approach to technology. The refugees they had helped were now running their own repair stations, teaching others what they had learned. In his office, Tom looked at a piece of the original Star Weaver's damaged power crystal, now mounted on his wall. Next to it hung the primitive tool he'd used to fix it. Both were reminders of how far they'd come. "Emergency call from the Orion sector," Jeff announced over the comm. "They've got a ship with some kind of new dry system. Nobody can figure out how to fix it." Tom grinned. "Tell them we're on our way. Time to set another new standard." As he headed to his ship, Tom reflected on how humanity had found its place among the stars. They weren't the most advanced civilization, but they had brought something just as valuable: the ability to keep flying no matter what space threw at them, and the willingness to teach that skill to anyone who wanted to learn. 5 years had passed since the first alien ship limped into Mars' orbital repair station. Tom Walker sat in his personal repair ship, looking at an emergency distress call from a distant human colony near the edge of known space. The message was brief. Critical system failure. Need your expertise specifically. Please hurry. Quite a change from the old days, Jeff said from the pilot's seat. Now they ask for us by name. Tom smiled, remembering how aliens once looked down on human repair methods. Now his repair ship carried tools and systems worth more than entire space stations, combining the best of human ingenuity with advanced alien technology. The colony came into view, a cluster of habitats and docking facilities orbiting a red dwarf star. But what caught Tom's eye was the repair station attached to it. The design was familiar, yet different, more efficient, more elegant. Look at those docking arms, Jeff whistled. Someone's been improving on our designs. They were directed to a massive repair bay that made their old facility on Mars look tiny. As the airlock cycled, Tom noticed something that made him laugh. The safety warnings were written in the universal repair code he'd helped develop years ago. A tall figure waited for them inside. Tom's eyes widened in recognition. Captain Ricks. The alien smiled, an expression he'd learned from humans. Actually, it's Station Director Ricks now. Welcome to New Horizons Repair Hub. The former Star Weaver captain led them through the facility. Everywhere Tom looked, he saw his old ideas evolved into something better. Repair teams of mixed species worked together seamlessly. The tools they used were elegant combinations of human practicality and alien efficiency. After you saved my ship, Ricks explained, I couldn't stop thinking about human repair methods. When this colony needed a repair station, I volunteered to build it. But we didn't just copy your designs, we learned from them. They reached a vast repair bay where a familiar ship floated in a maintenance cradle. The Star Weaver, Tom breathed. She's still flying. Better than ever, Ricks said proudly. We've upgraded her over the years, always following the human standard. But now we have a problem that even our improved methods can't solve. That's why we called you. Ricks led them to a diagnostic station. The display showed a complex tangle of energy patterns that Tom had never seen before. We discovered a new type of space anomaly, Ricks explained. It affects quantum fields in ways we don't understand. 3 ships have already been damaged passing through it. We can fix them, but we can't figure out how to prevent it from happening again. Tom studied the readings. The problem was unlike anything in the human or alien repair manuals, but that had never stopped him before. Jeff, he said, remember that old Earth saying about fighting fire with fire? Jeff grinned. You've got an idea. Maybe we can't prevent ships from being affected, Tom said, pulling up a design interface. But what if we could make them adapt to it instead? Like how we learned to adapt our repair methods to different technologies. For the next few hours, Tom worked with Ricks's team, combining their improved repair methods with his original human approach. They designed a new type of shield system that didn't try to block the anomaly's effects, but instead flowed with them, like a tree bending in the wind. As they tested the prototype, Tom watched Ricks's repair teams at work. They moved with the confidence of people who knew their methods would work, but kept the creativity that made human repair special. You've taken everything we taught you and made it better, Tom said to Ricks. The alien director shook his head. No, we just did what you taught us. We adapted. The galaxy needed human repair methods, but human repair methods also needed the galaxy. Together, we're better than either of us alone. Looking around the station, Tom saw the truth of those words. Every repair bay held a story of cooperation. Every tool showed the marks of multiple civilizations' innovations. The human way of fixing things had changed the galaxy, but the galaxy had changed it too. Ready to test the new shield design, Jeff called out. Tom smiled. Always ready. That's the human way. And now it's the galaxy's way too. As they prepared for the test, Tom realized that this was humanity's greatest achievement in space. Not the ships they'd fixed or the methods they'd created, but the way they'd taught the galaxy that the best solutions came from working together, learning from each other, and never being afraid to try something new.